You see the first one is this Nagpa Jhapli hydroelectric project where we have installed this mechanism in 2003 and where the intake depth of 45 meters. And the second one, we exported our product to various countries, and this one is Rwanda, Africa. And if you see the third one is the yellow one. And this one is Tala hydroelectric project in Bhutan where we have provided a mechanism. And the fourth one is Tista Canal Fall. If you see on the right side of it, that the additional steel structure is being created by us so that mechanism will not obstruct the bridge and let the vehicle go. Otherwise, this mechanism will take 2 to 3 meters of space for its movement. And because there is an ongoing road which we don't want to obstruct, so we create a parallel steel structures for that and make sure that mechanism will proper. And it is a center type wire incorporated where the grab will go between the trash track mechanism and do the combing and clean the intake. This is the hydraulic mechanism which we are given. The first one, the red, you see, it's a 3-in-1 hydraulic mechanism. In the back side of this mechanism, there is a 12-ton gantry crane for lifting of intake stop lock. Then this largely electric project in Bhutan and various other projects which we have commissioned. And we have seen the best thing about this mechanism, they're taking out their cost within a span of 1 year because of effective wrecking. Standard features of our machine. It's in-house design. We have our own in-house designing team which used to design the mechanism as per the requirement of intake. Indigenous procurement parts for ease of maintenance. Safety interlocks for reliable and foolproof operation. Customized design for retrofit to existing intakes. Specifically designed grab for best handling different types of trash. We have different types of trash handling grabs, like from bottom to top and top to bottom combing is to be done according after studying and evaluating the nature of trash and understanding the nature of intake.
Only 2 minutes.
Thank you. PLC based panel with on-screen guidance and touch-screen manuals for ease of operation. Use biodegradable oils for making it eco-friendly machines. We give after installation services, quick response in case of breakdown, ease of maintenance because we are in India and an Indian firm have a manufacturing facility in Gujarat. So we are very close to the places where the project is being installed in India, and wherever there is any problem, we can reach to you very immediately. Customized solution. Our solution will be customized as per the requirement of the intake, because if you have seen there are few intakes with a higher megawatt and the few intakes like canal falls and all. So according to the requirement, we used to provide a mechanism, and we provide AMC. And this is the biggest strength of our mechanism, that we give AMC annual maintenance contract where the mechanism is to be run by us only, and we make sure that there is 24/7 at the time of rainy season, and make sure that it enhances the life of mechanism. And over the years, we have seen the mechanism is working like 10 to 15 years easily. When you did innovation, it will be appreciated. And for this, a patent certificate has been given by Government of India for hydraulic trash reckoning machine. We are proudly said that we have manufactured and supplied gates for Afghan-India Friendship Dam, which is being recently inaugurated by Shri Narendra Modi ji. GMW is basically a hydromechanical company. We used to manufacture complete hydromechanical equipment that includes gates, voids, gantry cranes, COT cranes, and penstock. As I said, every intake is just a new fitting. Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You supplied the trash racking machine for Maneri Bhani Stage 2 at Joshiada.
Okay, so,
Have you visited that machine after any time?
Sir, at present we are in contact with the UJVNL for that, and recently we had a word with the
Because the
director of
performance
operations
of
with
that machine was very bad, was not successful.
and then we are working on that. So we like to tell a bit, because the question come I would like to answer. The biggest problem with the project was the trash track panels were installed in the year 10 years before installation of this trash tracking machine, and the trash track panels were not aligned. So what happened that when the alignment was not there, the grab bucket comes and stuck in the mid of the trash bucket. And this was happened. And after that, we have also contact with them. We have given some offer for spares as well that will not be ordered. But that's a different scenario. We like to talk in details on that, sir, after that, for sure.
Your question.
Water was stored in the reservoir only. Were they spilling the water without generation of the power before cleaning that racetrack? Or it was there only and they were generating for more of the hours, say in place of 4 hours they were...
And presented certainly help in future purpose. Thank you for all the speakers and the participants.
Thank you, Chairman Sir. Now may I request our Chairman Sir to present the token of appreciation to all the 6 presenters of the session. So I call their names one by one. Mr. J. Compose. Kentaro Kido. R. Mahajan. Tom Peters. And last is Avinash. May I also request our Chairman Sir to present the token of appreciation to his fellow co-chairman, to Mr. David Fuller, and to our rapporteurs, Dr. N. K. Samarth. And now the last for the, may I request this co-chairman, Mr. David Fuller, to present the token of appreciation to our Chairman Sir for doing the wonderful job of the session. Thank you sir, thank you so much. Now there is an important announcement because we are running around 30 minutes late by the original time schedule. So I request all of you to grab your tea quickly and come back by 11:15. So the next semester, this next...
We start this session looking at the paucity of the time. We are 6 presentations, so we are planning to give 8 minutes to each of the presenter, and we would request that it is completed within that time. Even though I know Mr. Fuller asked me for 15 minutes, but well, that is how it happens. And I would first invite Mr. Angus Swindon on risk-based dam portfolio management in Australia.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the context for dam management in Australia. A little bit about the use of risk for dam portfolio management, particularly for owners with multiple dams or large portfolios of dams. I'll give you an example of how the organisation I work for, Hydro Tasmania, do that, and then make some conclusions at the end. So a bit of context for dam management in Australia. Obviously, with white settlement in Australia only 200 years old, our dams are no older than that, but predominantly built in the 1900s. So we have a large number of dams that are probably between 50 to 80 years old in Australia. The current situation is that they're ageing and deteriorating, like obviously the situation you would find here in India as well. Community expectations are changing, so the standards they're expecting, particularly around public safety, are increasing, and the reporting that's required and the transparency of organisations, particularly government-owned, is increasing. So the conclusion from that is it is quite difficult to manage a large portfolio of dams on the basis of adopted standards, which may have been the case when they were built. So we're moving quite rapidly towards a risk basis for managing dams. So dam management in Australia is state-based. So we have, in fact, 6 states and 2 territories. And so the responsibility for managing dams remains with the owner. The state doesn't take any responsibility for that at all. 4 of the states and territories have legislation that covers that. I'm from Tasmania, that island down the bottom there that you can see. 4 of the states do have legislation and 4 of them don't. We like to think of Tasmania as being on the top of Australia. We're quite small, but we actually like to think that our contribution, particularly in dam management, is actually quite significant. The peak body in Australia that provides guidance to dam engineering is called ANCOL, the Australian National Committee on Large Dams, and that is part of the international body ICOL, the International Committee on Large Dams. So I'll show you just a couple of the guidelines that we use that were developed by ANCOL that guide how we manage dams. There's a very good guideline on dam safety management and a companion guideline on risk management or risk assessment. Those 2 together really help us understand the framework that the regulators will usually adopt to assess whether we're doing the right thing. There's then a range of other guidelines that have been produced that provide technical guidance and advice. They are not mandatory, we're not forced or obliged to work by them, but our regulators will generally expect that we refer to current standards and they see these guidelines as industry best practice. So at a very basic level, a dam safety program has, I haven't put a very detailed process chart of a dam safety program, but you'll have the individual context of the business, so all of the internal constraints, priorities, the nature of the portfolio, the strategic direction of the company, and then all of the external factors around that, so regulation, public expectations, and the actual usage patterns for those assets. Then there's a whole lot of activities that are generically considered dam management activities, and then out of that, there generally falls things that we have to go and do works to try and rectify deficiencies. Now, why I put this slide on is that that box in the middle, the risk assessment box, is the part of the process that is most heavily driving particularly works on dams, but decision-making on how to manage dams. So we do risk assessments routinely. We decide, is there a problem? Is that problem tolerable? If it's not, then obviously we go into an upgrade or a rectification process. Sometimes that can be maintenance, but sometimes it's a major project. Otherwise, if we can live with an issue, if something has failed or it's not in the condition it was originally, but it's acceptable, we will accept that and we'll just monitor it. So Hydro Tasmania itself, so there's just a map of Tasmania. Our dams are distributed across the whole of the area of Tasmania. It's not a big state, it's quite small. And we have a lot of assets that generate about 2,500 megawatts of installed capacity. And in that is a little over 200 dams in our portfolio. So we are quite a significant dam owning authority in the Australian context. The Hydro Tasmania group is made up of 3 parts. There is Hydro Tasmania, the owner-operator. There's Momentum, which is our retail business, and I'm in Insura, that's the professional services part. So we provide technical services advice to Hydro Tasmania, to external clients and international clients. Just a little bit about our journey. Hydro Tasmania was actually first created in the early 1900s, so we're a little over 100 years old now. And at the end of the major period of hydro development, they chose to use the technical skills, put them in a consulting business, and And that's when we started doing external consulting work in the late 1980s. We actually established a presence here in India in 2006 and opened our office in 2007. So it celebrated 10 years just last week. So in that portfolio of 200 dams that we have, 55 of those are what's called prescribed. So our regulator takes an interest in them. They want to understand how we're managing those dams. We have pretty much at least one of every type of dam in the portfolio and two of some of the ones you don't particularly want, but everything ranging from concrete-faced rock fill, which were largely pioneered in Australia by Hydro Tasmania, right through to earth fill and arch dams. Because it's a group of technical people who like dams, I thought I should put in a few photos to show some nice dams that we have. Sathana Dam is internationally very well known. It was the highest concrete-faced rock-filled dam when it was built in the 1970s. And Gordon Dam is an iconic dam in the southwest part of Tasmania, a double curvature high arch dam that impounds the largest lake in Australia. So this is Hydro Tasmania's dam portfolio, and I've put this on a chart showing the hazard category. Now this hazard category is this category over here. We either call them low hazard dams or extreme hazard dams, and it depends on the population at risk down here and the severity of loss or damage. So any storage that has a large population at threat of dam failure or a significant environmental, economic or business loss will be deemed to be a high hazard dam. So we have nearly 30 high and extreme hazard dams, but we also have a lot of very low hazard dams. So lots of small structures a long way away from population centres that we have to manage. So that immediately raises a challenge. Where do you put your focus? We can't put the same amount of effort into 200 dams, of course, and it wouldn't be right just to put the effort into the high hazard category dams, because some of those are in very good condition and just require routine monitoring, and some of the low hazard dams are actually in much poor condition and require a lot more intervention. So that's why we use the basis of risk to manage the portfolio, not just the hazard category. So I've just taken the flow chart out of the ISO standard for risk management, out of ISO 31000. So this is embedded in our business, just risk thinking across all parts of our business. And from that we've developed a fairly common tool in a lot of Australian organisations, which we call an integrated business risk framework. Now on the side,
we have 2 minutes.
2 minutes, right? On the side we have increasing likelihood of an issue, and across the top we have increasing consequence. Now that shows you the hazard category or the risk for those structures. You often find with dams though that the actual consequence can be larger than other parts of our business, so we have to increase an even higher category for damages to cover dams. This is the ANCOLD risk tolerance criteria. It's the same sort of thing but for a public safety risk, and we manage all of our dams according to how far away they are from those lines of tolerability. Now this is very similar to what they use in the western states of the United States. I'm sorry I don't really have time to actually explain much about how this works. It is quite an involved process to assess dams against this. But this is a plot that shows where our high and extreme hazard dams plotted when we did our portfolio risk assessment. And over a period of time we were able to undertake works on those, generally capital works, but some of it is increased monitoring and surveillance and emergency preparedness. And over a period of time you can actually reduce the risk position of your dams so that sometime later you have a much smaller number of dams that pose a high risk. Obviously, periodically we go and redo the risk assessments, and sometimes we find that some condition has changed at a dam and we have to reclassify that and it may become a high risk again. I'll skip through some of our dams in here. We have the same thing for a financial risk basis. This is just plotting probability of failure against financial consequences to the business. And a big question is, in this area here where you have low risk, what actually drives action? So we know that dams do require maintenance, but if you actually didn't undertake anything on a dam that wasn't in a high risk position, they would all end up there. So we then have another set of criteria that help us determine what type of action to take even on low risk dams, and make minor works, surveillance improvements, etc. I'll just run through this. This is just a visual of how I view risk management for a dam portfolio, and then I'll probably finish the presentation. So on one side of the balancing act we have risks. So we all understand that there are things that can go wrong, and on the other side we have to respond to those risks and try and do something to mitigate the risk. If you get it wrong, There's obviously dangers in allowing risks to overtake your business and cause you harm. But if you actually over-respond, then you can be accused of wasting resources, particularly money. So what you do is you do a range of surveillance-type activities and operations and maintenance, and you observe deficiencies. They appear periodically. Every now and then you'll find a deficiency that is a little bit more worrying and is going to cause more problems. So we put that in a category of dam that requires heightened awareness. So we'll increase all of the monitoring and assessment activities around that dam. And if at some stage we assess that a dam actually does pose a high risk, then generally there's a major intervention required, and that'll be a large project, which is rather like a lot of the ones we've seen in the last couple of days. This is just a slide showing that alongside that we actually do a performance scoring system against our program, and we report to our regulator.
Yeah, we will need to speed up a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just take about 1 more minute. So we report against how our program is managed, and we report that regularly to our regulator against all the elements of our dam safety program. Let me just skip through. I was going to show you some of the upgrade type projects that we undertake to fix our high risk dams. So in conclusion, one of the critical things we've discovered is that establishing the context for a risk-based managed portfolio is very important to understand what your owner and your regulator and your community expectations are. Once you're clear on that, you've got a much better chance of building a program around that you can build goals around to manage financial, reputation and life safety risks. Thank you.
Thank you. With the time and see that we can now conclude your presentation in 8 minutes. We'll try to give you a warning after 6 minutes. We can start discussing the conclusions.
Challenges on dam safety under changing climate. Now climate change is almost a reality. Now we have all accepted it, and we have national missions over it also. And we see in the last decade, as per IPCC report AR5, the global surface temperature has increased by 0.74 degree in 100 years. And if we see the IMD data, and if we do analysis, it comes out to around 0.44. The highest temperature rise that has been reported by one of the authors from IITM, it is around 0.57. So we still are very much below the global average. And we have seen that mostly the causes of the dam failures are because of over-tapping. That means we expect that in the uncertainty of climate change, definitely because of the hydrological extremes, we are going to face this particular problem. So temperature increase means significant changes in seasonal and annual rainfall patterns and other factors affecting stream flow, that is Himalayan catchments. We may experience snowmelt floods because of the snowmelt also. As we saw in case of June 2013 in Kedarnath disaster, that was because of the fusion of the two systems that occurred. And mostly in papers or in media, it was reported that it was because of the cloudburst. But previously, 7 days before, there was a heavy snowfall in that particular area, and the soil was almost saturated with snow. So after just experiencing a heavy snowfall, after 7 days, it experienced a heavy rainfall, and that was the reason why we faced such a big hydrological extremes. So we know that in India, we have the flood estimation or design calculations in India. BIS has established, we have a guideline, and we are using the PMF, SPF, and the flood of specific return period. But we have not taken into account the climate uncertainty into it, and we need to see how the climate inputs can be included into it. And if you see the seasonal and the regional flood characteristic process types, now it can be categorized, the floods can be categorized into different categories as long rain floods or weather floods because of the short rain floods, flash floods, rain on snow floods, and snowmelt floods. So all these things, they are expected in case of the changing climate. Now when we say the climate projections, earlier we were having special radiation emission scenarios, but in recently AR5 it has been replaced with RCP scenarios. RCP means regional concentration pathways. Now they have given us a pathway, and instead of emission, now we are talking of the concentrations. So currently nearly about 40 climate models are there, and they are providing us the climate projection at global scale. And CMIP5 ensembles are available on better resolution. That means now we are better equipped to deal with how the future water availability is going to change in the range of 1 to 2.8 degrees than previously CMIP coupled model in comparison project 3 models. Now the advantage of using ensemble model that I will show you, that is because of the uncertainties that is existing in these particular models. So if you see the RCP scenarios, here we have got the RCP scenarios. We have got a peak and decline. That means it is expected that the concentration will increase, it will peak at certain level and then again it will start declining. And we have got 1, 2, 3, 4 scenarios in which the output of the GCM output is available to us for the analysis purpose. So the CMIP5 models which are available, this is the list of the models that we can use. Now the question arises which model we have to choose and which model is suitable for our basin. And there are some studies also in which we can see there is a method based on the scoring. For example, in University of Tokyo, they have devised a methodology in which you can choose which method, which model suits for your particular basin, rather than going for a bias approach. That means we are, if I am familiar with certain model, I get an output easily from that particular model. I use it and I give the water availability scenario. So if you see the projections, in case of the temperature change, you will see here that the uncertainty associated is quite less. This is for different scenarios. But in case of precipitation, the uncertainties are too high. So that means that precipitations, projections, it is really difficult to know and how the rainfall pattern will be in future in comparison for all the scenarios that is available to us from the CMIP model. And if you see in case of India, the CMIP model ensemble temperature changes, this is given how the entire temperature variability is going to happen in the future, that means in 2030, 2060 and 2080. Similarly, in case of precipitation changes, and that is what I was talking about, the precipitation uncertainties are very high. So if you see the CMIP models, though they are available and people are using it, but still there is a limitation in it, and we can see from the Climate Research Unit gridded data of precipitation for 1980s and the model ensemble precipitation, you will find a lot of differences there. That means how we have to take on basin scale and what input we have to give to our model for the simulation of the stream flows and how we are going to get our basin will behave during the climate extremes. So but anyway, whatever the studies that have been concluded in India, if I summarize it, for whole of the India, the projections of maximum temperature from all the 6 models, they are showing increase of 2.5 degree to 4.4 degree by end of century with respect to present day climate simulations. And the annual rainfall, it is expected to increase between 15 to 24%. So this is again the same results. Under different scenarios, we can see how we are going to get the distribution of the rainfall and what range.
6 minutes are over, so you better start concluding.
So if we see the pyramid of uncertainty in climate model, we have very less data and we are imposing a theory over it, and then some assumptions are over there, and we are running the models, climate scenarios, and then we are drawing the conclusion for water management. So this is the state of affairs. So still we need a lot of improvement, a lot of knowledge is needed in this particular area, and we see that GCMs are good in predicting temperature. That means for Himalayan basins we can get some idea, but they are very poor in predicting the rainfall, so we have to be careful. And it is a very prudent question, that is water managers are always asking scientists how climate is changing. The risk is unexpected, that is what they are saying. And their water managers want a specific answer from us. They ask how much. So what we are doing, we are giving them this sort of figures. So they are not able to conclude anything out of it. So we have to be very much perfect, and we have to see on Indian context how to give the correct scenarios and utilize what are the current CMIP ensemble GCMs that we have to use out of the available 40 for our particular basins. and then we have to draw what will be the future availability. And this is, we know that in case the climate change, the reservoir function will change, there is a potential vulnerability. We know that the dam function that will be affected is flood detention for high rainfall, for higher temperature. We can see there will be an increase in vegetation growth, so this is all established fact that these things are going to happen. And the storage for seasonal uses also will get altered, and then